Okay, in this episode, we're going to look at key date cents. They may be scary, and there's quite a few that we need to look at, but they are surprisingly simple to learn. Okay, the 1856 Flying Eagle cent is one that's of concern to many collectors. I mean, it is a significant key date. 2000 minted, as opposed to the 57, which was 17 million, and then the 58, which was 24 million. So it's a significant rarity. So the incentive to make counterfeits is obviously there, but the more crafty are going to alter the date, the 6 in the date, or create a 6 in the date to produce the rarity. It's not very difficult to spot. The 1856 has a distinct digit style, the genuine being on the bottom. You'll note the 5. It's an upright 5. It has the back of the 5 goes right through the center of the ball on the 5. And the ball has a small deficit on the top, or more on the right of the ball. There's a deficit. That 5 is only on the 1856 cent. Okay, so that's one of our genuine indicators. The 6, also, that's the right size, shape. It has that little die line in between the ball of the 6 and the bottom of the 6, as opposed to the creative 1856 alteration on top. The 5 is completely different style. The bar doesn't go through the ball at the bottom. There's no deficit in the ball. And the 6 looks very spaghetti-ish. So as we discussed, that date has a very distinct style. The 5 is a key to the date. You know, they're not going to alter the 2 digits at the end of the date. But if you pick up that coin, you look at that date, it's going to be visible down to low-grade examples. The 6 should be visible in low-grade examples. That little die line is going to be protected. The 5 style is significant enough. If by some chance you have to go further with that, the O and of center is rectangular. The 1857 is oval, and the 58 has more of an oval D shape. So this one shows up on, let's say on eBay, and you're trying to decide whether to bid on it. And you look at it, the 6, the ball on the top of the 6 is way too far from the bottom O, and the 5 is completely the wrong style. It doesn't transect that ball. There's no deficit in the ball. So we have a date alteration. Maybe a 58 altered to a 56. 1857. When you look at this coin, you should be looking at the surface. Something about the luster doesn't look right. Something about the way it's reflecting the light doesn't look right. There are counterfeits of the 1857 and the 58. They're Chinese counterfeits, and they're usually done in the wrong metal. They're either done in copper or in a brass type metal. These were copper nickel coins. This coin's genuine, but it's been whizzed. They've taken a wire brush to an almost uncirculated coin to reproduce the luster and make the coin look like it might be uncirculated. Okay, this 1857 will hopefully jump out at you as having irregular surface. It almost looks dished. The center of the coin looks higher up, and then it looks like it slopes down into the rim and then swoops back up to the rim. This coin doesn't have the look of flat fields. It's also got a significant loss of detail. Doesn't really look like the correct metal. And that would all be, this is a struck Chinese counterfeit. It's also got wire rims because they struck it with more pressure than they needed to. And this would be a Chinese made counterfeit. This one I think I came across in the 1990s. The ones they're making now do have the flat surfaces, the flat fields. Okay, the 1859 Indian cent, that's been targeted for quite a few different counterfeits. struck counterfeits, casts, electrotypes, a little bit of everything. This is, again, where it helps to have your red book to look at it, the obverse and reverse. This one is a better Chinese counterfeit. The metal's not right, so the color's off. The surfaces don't look quite right. There's a loss of relief, and it does have a very sharp wire-like rim that's not going to be typical. Now, how they're producing this one is they actually take an image of the coin, maybe off a website, a high-resolution image. They put it into their graphics program. They make enhancements and adjustments, and then they send it to their CNC-like machine that engraves the dies, so that they can start striking them. They may make adjustments to the dies, and then they'll start striking. Another version of the coin may show a loss of relief, like you're seeing in the letters. They may show tool marks or a loss of detail in the feathers, like you're seeing on the headband. And in some cases, we need to go to the rim, because on these you've got, they've counterfeited them, pretty much used every method at one point in time or another to counterfeit these. And if you look at the edge, you can see where the base metal is showing up through it. 1867 and 68. This one is seen few and far between. It's out there. Normally people, I don't think, need to even, it's got a weak look. If you see it, this one's an uncirculated fake, but it has AU details. But at the edge of that shield, the point that comes out near the top left, you can see a small depression next to at the point of the shield. And these depressions are damage on the host coin that transfer and show up on all the counterfeits made from it. But you can also see that a small bit of the rim, that this thing has a very sharp wire rim. Okay, the 1872 Indian head cent. This particular one is believed to be the famous Bay Area counterfeit. Now, the Bay Area counterfeiter made a number of Indian cents and some large cents. Nobody ever figured out who he was. They're decent on the quality. Some people suspected that he may have been a dentist and these were produced from molds. Then he made dies from them. They're not perfect by any means, but it's more the diagnostics that we like looking for. The loss of detail. Look at how much significant loss of detail in the hair, in the feathers, in the ribbon, are all good indicators. So you don't really need to worry about who produced it, but just know that there's going to be a lot of Indian cents that look just like that. Here's another shot with the tooth identicals because of the loss of detail. You've lost the metal in between, the sharp rim, but just significant loss of detail. This was an uncirculated coin, and it's got very low AU details on it. There's going to be no definition of the feathers, the veins in the feathers, or in the leaves, or the detail in the feathers. But there's a number of coins made by him. They all share those similar characteristics. Moving on to the 1874, these aren't the same coin, but this is just to kind of give you an indication of different lighting and how that can help you. This being on the left, this is a nice genuine obverse. It's got some oxidation, it's got luster, it's got good detail, it's got a nice vibrant color. The one on the right, we've lit in such a way that you can see that this one has proof-like fields. The fields are a little bit irregular, but they're proof-like fields, and it's got frosted, granular raised devices. And what coin had grainy raised devices? The spark erosion counterfeit. They have like a lunar surface. The 1877, this is one of the big ones in the series. And it's surprisingly simple to authenticate. The last digit in the date is most often altered. The digit has characteristic style. The top and base of the 7 are thicker. The base is lower than the adjacent 7. And the ends on the reverse have a weak top and a weak bottom. But if you look at the 7, the top bar going across is thicker, and then the ball at the bottom hangs lower. Now, if we look at the one on the left, it's the top bar is thicker. The bottom ball, it hangs lower. It looks maybe a little bit thicker as well. Nice definition to the denticles. An appropriate amount of detail in the base of the portrait. And if we go to the other one, and I'm known for trap coins. We've got a very sharp rim. We've got the correct digit style, but they look a little bit weak. The feathers of the hair at the base of the headdress look very weak. And then the ribbon has very strong details. This is actually a fake, a counterfeit, struck counterfeit, and they went and they recut the diamonds in the ribbon. And they struck it with more pressure than they needed to. But for the 1877, most people are going to pick up the coin and they're going to go right to the back. The back side of the coin, the N, the base of the N in 1 drifts down into the field, and the top of the N in cent drifts into the field. It just kind of sinks into the field. If you have one with a strong reverse, it's a proof coin. If you have one with those ends, that's a good indication that it's genuine. However, since I like trap coins, if you look at one in cent, they have granular raised devices. I mean, this is a spark erosion counterfeit. And because it's a struck counterfeit, maybe from the struck erosion process, it's going to display the genuine characteristics. So that's where knowing the diagnostic is helpful for some of the fakes, and knowing the surfaces is helpful for others. Actually, your 1908 and 1909 Indian cent are a tricky coin. And this is one of the coins that somebody was shopping around at my very first ANA, and the dealers kept coming up to show it to me until someone finally bought it and never came back to me when I was at the authentication table. The S on this is both the S on the 08 and the 09 are going to be the same style. The style of the S on the 08 and 09S is the top serif almost touches the lower curve in the S. These two are separated, and they have more of a stringy appearance to them, these not being genuine. If you look at the mint mark on the right, that is your genuine mint mark style. The position can shift a little bit between the two dates, but your 9S is always going to look like that, and your 8S is always going to have the very distinct style. Unfortunately, this is a struck counterfeit. So they made a copy of the genuine coin, which gave them the correct mint mark style, but in going and producing the dies, they left hash marks. All those little spikes coming out of the denticles into the field, that you won't find those on genuine US coins. But that's a good indication of the mint mark style. If you can't remember mint mark styles and little things like that, you can always go to Google it, or go to Heritage, or maybe even NGC or PCGS's website, and they'll have images of the genuine mint mark style that you can compare and contrast. Okay, the 1909 SBDB Lincoln cent. Don't stress it. They're not that difficult. This is probably the rarest of the most common of the rare coins. They seem to be everywhere, despite being fairly rare. There is one, and only one, distinct mint mark style. There are 4 mint mark positions. You have mint mark alterations, and you have struck counterfeits. And there are a lot of struck counterfeits. Both old ones probably made here in the US, and new ones coming out of China. This is the mint mark. Okay? That's the S mint mark. It's got one style, the same style of mint mark that was used throughout this period. It's upright and parallel serifs. You know, see the top right flat goes straight down. The bottom left, straight down. A die chip in the upper loop, sort of at the left of the inside of that loop. And a deficit in the upper, a little missing piece in the deficit of the upper serif. Okay, and there's 4 mint mark positions, some of which we will highlight here. Going to the date and mint mark, that does not look like the correct S mint mark. The style is completely wrong. It's more of a spaghetti S. So that would be a mint mark addition or alteration. That, on the other hand, is a very nice, genuine mint mark. It's got that little chip, that little bump in the upper serif. It's got the deficit. It's got good metal flow going up to, behind, and past the mint mark. It's got a nice wood grain texture to it. It's a very nice, genuine mint mark. Okay, starting with the one on the left. Nothing correct about the style of that mint mark. Going to the one top right. Also incorrect. The bottom serif is diagonal. And actually on the first one on the left, the bottom serif is diagonal, as opposed to straight up and down, as you can see on the one on the bottom right. Nice metal flow on the one on the bottom right as well. But some people have way too much time on their hands, and they actually went to all the trouble of adding the V period D period B period. Not very common, but they've done it. It's just a matter of looking at the style. Notice that the D has a very distinct style with the way it swoops at the bottom, and the B has that same angulation to its center bar and bottom bar. So with that in mind, clearly an added VDB. It doesn't have the angulation, the bottom of the D to the same extent, and the B actually kind of looks like an 8. Now this is another coin like that 1959 Indian cent that highlights the importance of looking at the red book. This coin does not exist. And they actually altered the digit. That second one, it was a 1940D Lincoln cent that turned into the non-existing 1910D. The 14D, don't let it scare you. It's not that difficult. Of course, the lower the grade, the more difficult it gets. But for the most part, this one is easy to nail. Very distinct D style. Looks very similar to the D on the 1916D cent, because it is the same style. You find this used throughout the teens, this D style. But the 14D is going to be a date or a mark alteration. There are some struck counterfeits. But we look at the mint mark. The mint mark does look like it's kind of sitting in a slight depression. Notice the distance between the digits, because the alteration would be altering this from 4 to a 1. And when they do an alteration of this size, they're typically going to have to impair most of the surfaces of the coin. They might whiz the coin or just clean it to kind of make it look like all of the surfaces are the same. We look at this one, strong D. It almost looks like it sits in a depression, but this is actually epoxy oxidizing, where they added the D and they glued it to the surface of the coin. Color changes around the mint mark suggest that heat or that your epoxy is oxidizing. It's every now and again, and I think all the services can share the same story. They will receive a coin, and it's a key mint marked coin, and the mint mark is floating around in the flip because it's fallen off during shipping. We've seen it at NGC, ANA, and I'm pretty sure PCGS has probably had that happen as well. Now looking at these two, that mint mark looks like it sits in a little bit of a depression on a slight hill, that kind of look. And that's from the punch, maybe a heavy-handed punch. The digits look fine. That coin looks okay. Coin on the right looks like the D has a cat's eye. And that would be a mint mark that's actually raised from the surface of the coin. Okay, the 1914 D sent with a date alteration. I shouldn't have to beat this into your muscle memory in your brain. You should be able to see that it looks like it's 19 wide space 14 when it used to be a 44. Also, if you look at the style of the mint mark, it doesn't have that very nice early 20th century look. It's the modern SpaghettiOs alphabet soup style D. Your 1920 D, no D Lincoln cent. Probably my least favorite coin. There are numerous varieties, weak D, this and that and the other, but we generally just look at the 1922 no D Lincoln cent. It actually had a D, but the D disappeared due to being filled. They're making coins. The war is going on. They're struggling, and they had little things that went wrong. Die pair 2, which is the one we recognize as the no D. And their mint mark alterations are your most common thing. Seen a few counterfeits, but they're absolutely awful. This is typically what you can expect from the obverse. Very weak, hard to see, but you can see in the date, this coin is going to have a very strong reverse. It's almost like two different coins. There's no trace of a D mint mark. The L in Liberty is mushy. The R in Liberty is weaker than the other letters. In God We Trust is weak and mushy. Trust and the second two in the date are stronger. The second two in the date is stronger. That usually comes up fairly well. Yeah, here's your genuine diagnostic. Look at that nice sharp 2. No trace of a D. Go down to Liberty, just as we described it, and the In God We Trust is weak. But the strong 2 in the date, and of course the back of the coin has a strong reverse. You know, it looks like it's almost part of a different coin. All right, so we got this coin, we're looking at it, and well, all the digits are strong. So this one isn't the 22. This has had its D removed. You may see a little bit of a depression here. Here, the D is filled, so it doesn't show up, and you have the strong 2 on the end of the date. 26S, Lincoln cent. This was an unusual one. We had a whole box of these. I think there was 4 or 5 of them in one submission from a major dealer. We looked at it, we're going for closer, and it just didn't look right. Something just wasn't, for a muscle memory, I guess, a visual memory, it was a red flag that something was wrong. It was weak. The mint mark didn't look right. And so when we rotate it around under the light, you can see that it has visible seams. And the mint mark's, kind of weak and fat. You can see that, well, depending on how you light it, it has smooth transitions versus visible edge seams. But the 31S, they're less common than they used to be. The digit style, look at the very stylized 1, the 9, the 3, and then the second one. Very nice style. The mint mark has got a strong punch into the coin. Almost looks like it sits in a slight depression. And your 55 double die. Surprisingly easy. It is not a double die, it is a doubled die, where the die actually took 2 impressions. So if that is in the die, so every coin struck by that die is going to have the doubling. The doubling is crisp. When you look at it, it looks like it all happened at the same time. I haven't seen alterations of that, but I'm sure if there are any, they only did doubling on the date. They just didn't bother with the rest of the coin. But we have struck counterfeits. We have, of course, have awful Chinese counterfeits, but we have some very good, probably U.S. counterfeits. And you just look to the left of the upright in the T, and there's 2 very faint lines that run down. The 72, not as common as it used to be either, but it is a popular double die. There's a diagonal line between the N and the I in United, and there's a die gouge by the D. We can see all of those diagnostics. And between the I and the T, there's that small die line, and then that gouge at the rim on the top of the D. Counterfeits don't have either of those. This should give you a pretty good understanding of some of the alterations that you'll see in the small sense. You will notice that they're not as scary as you might have originally thought. And that's a good thing. Keep it simple. Look at those diagnostics and you're going to be in good shape for the vast majority of pieces. The key being, if you're not sure, don't buy the coin. You're not getting paid to authenticate the coins. You're buying coins for your collection. So you can just have a bad feeling and just walk away. You can find another coin at another table. In this next episode, we're going to look at 3, 5, and 10 cents. Just some of the other minor coinage that we encounter.